Hey, Celebration Pros. We are all kind of on the edge of our seats for today's topic, this month's topic of AI. We've been like very surface level dabbling in the questions and playing around. We did a little bit of a demonstration through last month's 5-day challenge, and I know you guys have just been wanting more of this. So I've reached out. Heather happened to drop in my inbox via a friend of mine. And so she's joining us today. And in just a few minutes, I'll have her take the stage. If you're interested in following her and just a few slides, I'll also have her Instagram handle. And as I was just telling her, if you're watching the replay or you're here live and you want to go back, this will forever live in the Celebration Pro community on Facebook. So if you or someone you know wants to be a part of the Celebration Pro group to have access to these free workshops, please feel free to share that link. And of course, welcome to Celebration Pros. If you're, again, watching the replay, maybe you're new to the group, I want to make sure that we welcome you, that you understand every month we have these free workshops for you to learn and to grow. And, we're in this business to help each other, link arms, raise up, all the things. So in that group, you have not only workshops, but the support from all of your peers. And let's see. So you all know me, but in case you're new here, I take my 15 years of experience in luxury hospitality and owning my own destination wedding business. Formerly, I have retired from event planning. And then I pair that with all of my college education and all the professional development that I work on behind the scenes for all of you so that we can bring the most up-to-date information in now modern times. Things change over time so that I can be your wedding business bestie. So that's why we're all here and how we got here. And you know what? I know it's not easy. Being a business owner is not easy by any means. A lot of us, I think, we're excited to be our own boss. We get into this thinking it's going to be a breeze, and it's hard. A lot of us fall into, I'm both of these, perfectionism and or procrastination. We feel like there's a big lack of creativity. Maybe we're feeling like we're overscheduled. We don't have a lot of time to work on these things. And a lot of times we feel like, who are we to be the ones to take on these roles that are on our hearts? But now that we have the power of AI, and we'll be going over some of these things, you can now feel like you're in control, that you're going to have faster results. The inspiration is going to be instant. You'll see in the demonstration, you're going to save so much time and you're going to be able to work like a pro. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Heather Ray. And if you want to follow her on Insta, this is the right Instagram handle, I assume. Yep. Okay, yep. Heather Ray Brands. And Heather, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen back to you.
Awesome.
If I know how to do this, who can share? I'll just do all participants.
I think I might be able to truncate.
Yeah, see if that works.
I tried it, said I can't do it while you're still doing it. So maybe you accept. Cool. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really feel excited about this conversation today, and there's not a lot on the Zoom, but hopefully there are on the Facebook. And really, I want to talk to you guys about kind of AI 101. We're still in the early stages of it. One of the things that I have learned about AI is everyone I talk to knows just a little bit more or less than the other. So there's no one unified starting point. So some of this stuff, I hope you have some familiarity with it, but I'm going to try to highlight some of the things I think are more interesting, some background about me and where I think AI is going. But I also want to hear from you guys. So if it's helpful to chime in and ask a question, especially on chat, that's a great way to get my attention where I can stop or also show your face and ask some questions on here. Let me tell you guys a little bit about what I have planned in the presentation today, and then I'll go into a bit more about myself so you can know who you're talking to here. So discussion topics for today. First, I'll tell you about me, my background. The long and short of it is that I actually am fairly new to the world of AI. I'm a multiple business owner. I'm working on my 5th business right now. So the only real way that I can juggle all of that is with the power of AI. So I'll tell you about that, but really I want to go into, why is AI all the rage? Like, it feels like it's taken over the whole wide world, and it's been nothing but in the headlines and every conversation I'm sure you guys have had. I want to tell you all a little bit about why all of a sudden it feels so sudden and ubiquitous across conversations. I also want to talk to you about why you should embrace AI. So you're here, which is nice. I have a nice, like, biased audience of people who are interested in talking about it. But you'd be surprised how often this comes up in my conversations where, people are like, it's going to be terrible, or it's going to cost us all of our jobs. And, I'm so glad I don't have to learn it. And so those are certainly ways that you can approach this world. But I'd like to argue that you should embrace it with more open arms. And then I also want to talk to you guys about how to get started AI imagining your businesses and home life. I use a lot of this in my home too. And I'll offer some specific suggestions on, like, a starting place of use cases, but the world really is your oyster. In fact, I've been working on a spreadsheet that's thousands of rows long of all the different things that you can use AI for. And so, we'll talk about a few places that you can get started, but try to actually make it a little bit more digestible, because I'm sure, like you guys, I feel so overwhelmed by the number of resources, by the amount of news and all that kind of stuff. So I'll try to break it down and tell you where I'd suggest you take a first couple of steps in the process of reimagining. So a bit about me. It's weird to look at a slide like this and see your name by AI expert, because I do have perfectionism and imposter syndrome, and who am I to dream all of these things that you were saying resonates deeply with me. But I do think it's time to start declaring some of that. A bit about me, I like to call my life path kind of this cowgirl to consultant to, I guess, now creator. And I grew up on a cattle ranch in Texas. I definitely for a long time thought that I would live in the country and, raise cattle and ride horses. But I really actually ended up turning corporate after I went to undergraduate. And I worked up quite a bit in marketing early in my career for the first couple of years. In fact, I worked for a business school marketing MBA programs. And I guess I sold one to myself, because I ended up going to get an MBA myself at University of Michigan. And that's when I became an actual consultant. I worked at Boston Consulting Group for 6+ years, which is a very prestigious consulting firm. It's still can't believe that they let me come in the doors there, but really enjoyed my time there. I really specialized in strategy, marketing, and digital customer journeys. So really taking a consumer-facing lens to the experience that consumers are having and bringing digitization to it and optimizing it. And I did a lot of that for, big companies, working alongside executive teams for a long time. But then right during COVID lockdown, I had identical twin 3-year-olds, and they just changed my life like kids typically do. And I decided really quickly that if I was going to work hard and be traveling and doing that sort of thing, it better be on my own terms, and that I'd need some flexibility. So I became an entrepreneur. I'm about 2.5 years or so deep into that. My first brand that I launched is a company called Play Boxes, which are boxes kids that can play with. They're coloring cardboard playhouses, and that's a direct-to-consumer brand that I've fully bootstrapped and built myself, everything from product design to running it day in and day out now. Through that, I also have launched a 3PL. I have a little warehouse, and I distribute for several other companies. I've got quite a few products that are in patenting and have done quite a bit of independent consulting as well. So keep a lot of balls up in the air and really enjoy the process of building ideas into businesses. And where that'll go in the long run, we will see. But a lot of this whole AI expert and AI background was born about a year ago, when I had this just huge idea come to me that I still think about every day and I'm building. And it's about how to use artificial intelligence to help make the mental load of motherhood, parenthood, and managing your home easier. So there's so much that is in place now, but it still requires domestic engineering, as I call it. And there's a lot of opportunity for the advancements in AI to help us live better lives, truly, within the bounds of our own home. So I'm working on an AI startup around that. And that is actually how and why I became so familiar with the world of AI. I had certainly seen it in the enterprise setting during my work at Boston Consulting Group, but the big change that's happened is access for people outside of corporations that didn't have big data centers. And so it's been, I've been riding the wave like a lot of others have, and the world has changed a lot faster than I or any of my colleagues that worked in and touched AI before ever did. So that really led me to this year. Starting at the beginning of this year, I kind of woke up one day, frankly afraid. I was like, holy moly, everything's going so fast with AI. Am I going to be obsolete? What's the world going to look like? Like I went through that process of fear. And I really had to decide to embrace this change and kind of not go down without fighting. So I designed a curriculum for myself, and I've spent, and quite literally 300 or more hours this year studying everything that I could around AI. So I already had a bit of an interest in it, but I'm talking like dabbling with a tool each day this entire year, taking courses, actually learning how to code. I mean, I read probably 20 newsletters a day. It just drives me crazy how many I get, and they all say the same thing, but I just, I don't want to miss some story. And, I started to become really obsessed with what it can do for me and how I can use it in my home and life and running my businesses. And so, really, I've completely integrated it into my life. And I wouldn't call myself an expert, but even though, it's on the page, people keep telling me that I have an expertise, because every time I talk to a business owner about what I'm doing and how it's helping me, their eyes kind of go wide. Like, what do you mean? I don't know where to start. I know I need to embrace it, but, how are you really using it? Is it really that valuable? And I'm here to tell you that AI has done these things and more for me this year. So I think at least 20 to 30 hours I've gained per week. And what I mean by that is things that I used to would have had to pay a freelancer for, or an intern for, or an analyst for, time savings to me personally in terms of getting my work done faster. At least I'd say there's some weeks that it's more. For example, last week I did a grant application, and they told me to set 4 to 5 days aside for it. And I wrote it in one day flat using ChatGPT, and it was 10 times better than if I had spent all week doing it the old school way. And that was just one example. I mean, with the rest of my time, I got to put new projects underway. And that can really mean a lot when we're in a world of we've got too many balls to juggle. It just really helps cut through the noise if you can learn how to use it as a co-pilot and partner in your thinking. The other thing is it saved me at least $100,000 so far this year. And I mean that from the standpoint of not having to pay for freelance services that I had budgeted, and not having to hire headcount to do like marketing management in particular for me. So it's actually really saved me dollars and cents against my plan this year. And, I hope that you'll see these benefits for yourself. And again, not everybody needs to spend 300 hours learning all of this stuff so that they can get these benefits. But I have done a lot of that, and I really want to offer that to the world. I mean, really, I never even went down this path to like talk to people about it. I really just was like trying to deal with my own world of having too many things and too many balls in the air and figure out a way to make it work. And every time I talked to other small business owners, I realized how much I had to share with them. And so, where this will go, the world will only know. But I do have one real goal in this. I told you guys about the process of transition that I went through personally, and I really went through this idea of this valley of despair. Um, whether it be about entrepreneurship in general, or whether it be about AI in particular. I went through this like happiness, things are going well. And then you hit this like denial and fear stage, and like it feels threatening, and you start to feel like, defeated, like, depressed about where things may go. And it's really real and natural. Like this is a theory of change. It's like an academic studied, curve that actually applies to real life. And I certainly went through it. I mean, it took me months to work through my own valley of despair when it came to what might happen with AI and business in the future. So my goal really is to build you guys a bridge over this valley of despair. I really want to help showcase some of the ways that you can really see the value and then gradually move to acceptance and moving forward and bringing this in. Because the worst thing in the world, in my mind, is that we all get depressed and hostile against these technologies, and we stop engaging with them, and we stop seeing what opportunities they can bring to us, because big corporation, they are going to be knocking down this door. There's a huge amount of innovation that's going on in all kinds of places around artificial intelligence. And I really believe in the power of small business. So I don't want you as a small business owner to become defeated or depressed or hostile about this world, when really it gives us a chance to be a lot more nimble and to move a lot faster than big guys. And it's rare that we have an advantage in this world. So that's part of why I really want to build this bridge for you guys. A little bit of history. Again, I know not everyone's as nerd out interested as I am, but I did want to talk about why is it all the rage all of a sudden? And really, I want to start the story with the last few years. The last few years have been, AI has been becoming increasingly embedded into our lives. And we have seen some of this, but you really would be shocked at how much AI has actually been touching you for the last 3 to 5 years or so. And some great examples are right on your phone, right? Every time you get a predictive text, the next word, or it predicts an emoji for you, or it auto drafts an email for you, like in Google, that is all artificial intelligence, one flavor of it, and the flavor that has advanced most rapidly and enabled a lot of this stuff. So I want to point out that a lot of this stuff has been going on kind of right under our noses, and within enterprise, within big businesses that have big budgets to put behind this kind of stuff. And some was consumer facing, but largely it was integrated into products that you already had. So I mentioned this because it feels so sudden and like a big, hype, all the rage, but actually this has been going on slowly in the background for a while. So then why all of a sudden does it feel crazy, right? What sparked this? Really, ChatGPT did. And I'm sure that you guys here are aware of it, of ChatGPT, although the last study that's been published is only still 40% awareness, which is really crazy awareness for a new product, but it's still, not quite the majority. And ChatGPT was a real advancement because it has to do with natural language processing. And it's the chat part of ChatGPT that became suddenly so powerful and mesmerizing and value creating. And what that means is for the history of us working with machines and computers, humans have taken on the onus of learning the language of computers, right? We learn programming languages to talk to computers and tell them what to do. And that's what a software engineer, or developer, or coder, or programmer, that's their primary function, is to translate what you want to have done into machine language so that they can do things like calculations and designs and that sort of thing. But when we had this massive breakthrough in natural language processing, it really created a way that we can talk in plain English, human language, to machines, and machines could then understand us. And so, ChatGPT launched on a GPT-3 model, which is a pretty advanced model. And before, if you had programming capabilities, you could tap into this. This was not all of a sudden last November when all of this came. You actually could access this for, the previous couple of years. But it took them until their third version for them to build this chat interface. And that really created just amazing access and awareness to the masses. And I think, frankly, just dumbfounded most people in the community and outside of it. We were all like, holy moly, we've never seen anything like this. And that, coupled with open sourcing of these technologies, has really created just breakneck speed of advancement. And even ChatGPT, which is created by OpenAI, they launched their first version in November, and then another one January, February. I can't remember the exact date on here, but that alone, it was leaps and bounds, and it was all the rage, and you could see the difference between these two models. And so it became very holy crap, what is going on? How fast is this going? Is my brain even useful? It has created a lot of fear and anxiety, and view of opportunity. And so that has really launched this hype cycle. Again, not to bring too many curves and graphs, but I am a data nerd, so I like theories. But it really is true that we've entered this hype cycle where there was an innovation trigger around ChatGPT, and now we're at, and kind of maybe are arguably moving a little bit over this peak of inflated expectations. And here soon, we'll go into a trough of disillusionment and hopefully eventually move to like a plateau of productivity. And I'm excited for that. I think that this is a notable point, kind of where this arrow is on this page, because I have felt for the last few months like, holy moly, I can't keep up with all the change. Like, how will I ever, if I'm not already doing it now, I'll never be able to catch up. But I actually think we're in a little bit of a lag in terms of the breakthrough technology has come. Now everyone's kind of like, oh, you can do all these amazing things. And now people are seeing it for what it really is. And there's a lot of advancement that's going on that will come to the market in the next couple of months. And so we're in a period where you still have time to kind of build your AI acumen, as I call it, but that real solutions where you're going to really change your organization, change the way of doing things. Some of that is still yet to come, some of those more vertical solutions for industries and service providers. And so that's where we'll move more to the plateau of productivity, where it's less hype and speed and everyone moving to just get things out for first mover advantage and actually instead come with products that really solve, unique audiences' needs. And so there's a lot that's going on. Finally, we're talking more about regulation. We're talking about how there's processing limitations. There's all kinds of like very large early stage valuations all of a sudden, like raising money that's just like kind of unheard of to build new technologies and computing and stuff. So this is going to continue to be just an amazingly hot area. And while hype cycles sometimes can die out, like what you might argue NFT or Bitcoin or crypto, as I really believe AI is here to stay. I mean, it was already embedded into our lives, and there's just too much productivity for our capitalist world to ignore. So it's definitely something to pay attention to. But what are the downsides, right? I want to proactively kind of address the caution tape, if you will. And there's a lot of concerns about misinformation and manipulation and misuse of this technology, and they're all extremely valid. And I'm really glad that it's not my job to figure out how broadly we're going to, control this, how we're going to, have a justice system around it, how we're going to prevent crimes from happening. I want to be really open about the fact that there are privacy concerns about data. There's a lot of concerns about spamming and phishing or spreading propaganda. There's a lot of talk about what that might mean for our next election. Deep fakes, if you haven't heard of that, like right now you can take video clips of people and their voice and you can create an avatar of them and you could call your mom and beg for money. There's some pretty scary stuff that's going on in terms of the malice that could be done with it. But also, AI has the risk of not really having full contextual understanding, and it's built on a data source of kind of the internet broadly, which has some inherent biases in it. There's a lot of work being done to help correct some of that bias, but it can be biased. And is it even up to date? Not every AI model that you might be working with even has the latest and greatest information on it. So that'll be interesting to see. Even right now, ChatGPT has browse disabled. That was big news in the last day or so. Why? What's going on with it? And you're also starting to see a lot of lawsuits over, intellectual property rights and that kind of thing. So this whole is it fact or is it fake is going to continue to be an important thing to take into consideration. And one of the beauties, I think, as a business owner who really knows what you're doing is that you can review this stuff through a lens of, does this jive? Is it right? Is it accurate? And that's why these tools are great partners, but they can't actually replace you and your expertise, which is a wonderful thing, I believe. So I just want to address those. There's a lot I could write a whole presentation just on these things alone, but it's always important to kind of pay attention to the signs. So what's in it for me, right? What I'm telling you, I think that you should embrace this technology. I think a great way for me to teach you to do that is to tell you what's in it for you. And to me, it really is about more freedom, more time, more profit, and more stability, right? More stability in your business, more predictability, more stability in terms of your competitive position in the market, I think. And really all of this stuff, like achieving all of these things, money might be your motivator and that's great. Time might be your motivator and that's great. But all of these things help you actually, as a person, move up Maslow's hierarchy, right? Like, we don't want to be worried about our physiological needs. And that's why you get so scared when you feel like your job is under threat, right? When it comes to technology like this, that is your ego inside protecting your heart. And that's great, right? Like, you should be fearful and weary of these sorts of things. But I actually believe that this can help you move beyond some of these base level needs that you're probably solving today and move more into self-actualization. Like, I get to spend a lot more time being creative and actually feeling accomplished than I used to, because I'm not doing the mucky-muck work. I'm actually moving to the next level and being able to explore faster and let my ideas come to life much faster. And that allows me to feel a higher sense of esteem. So if like time and money and freedom and stability don't convince you, do this for your greater, like, I don't know, enlightenment of your Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I think there's a lot of value in it. This is a page I wanted to share with you guys. I thought it was really relevant to small business owners like you and me. This survey talked about why small businesses are optimistic about AI, and I think it's really great. This was just done in April, and it was done by GoDaddy, of all places. And what I like when I look at this is that the majority of people are interested, but it's only 57%. Like, I think it's crazy that people are neutral or disinterested in this. And I can understand, I really can understand, but having spent so much time and seeing the value of it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I really love this adoption piece, where it's about, what are they using? What tasks are they using themselves? And this categories of anticipated adoption is spot on. Everything that I read, I really think that the most valuable use cases for you are in marketing and content creation and your website, and in supporting customers. Those are the kind of like the marketing and sales customer experience. This is just chef's kiss. There's so much value that can be created from this. And so we'll talk a little bit more about some specific use cases that I've outlined, but again, I could, go on. I've got thousands for us in a spreadsheet on it. I think it's interesting to see here, like, which tools have you used for your business? And 70% of people say ChatGPT, and then drop sharply to Bard, which is kind of Google's version of ChatGPT. And then all these other ones, it's just such low adoption in terms of, the percent that have used it. And that makes sense. And one of the number one thing that I'll tell you in terms of how to get started is to start becoming besties with ChatGPT, because it's the Swiss Army knife of all of these models, and it's the most advanced for a reason. So I just wanted to mention this. It's, again, I won't go into it in too much detail, but I felt like this was a really good view and summary of, kind of what the market in general is looking like and how they're using it, where they think the value is going to come from. Okay, so this page here, example use cases, this was just a page I kind of put on the lens of, all right, if I'm working in events and celebrations in general, what are some use cases? And again, every one of these I could write every one of these categories I could write an entire page on. And we'll do some demonstrations here in a minute to kind of show this in real life. But I think this is a great starting place list. So much of the value, I think, comes in the world of marketing and customer experience. You can use it from anything from like doing competitor intelligence, like go scan my competitors and see whether their prices are changing, go scan the marketplace to see if there's more or less keywords than there were before. But also you can use it for strategic advice and designing campaigns, writing briefs for people who may be helping you with marketing or creative. There's so much that you can do around creating assets, whether it be, blog posts or social media posts, everything from scripting to creating graphics, captions, videos. That is just the bread and butter of what it can do for you. And there's a lot that's going to come around media buying. Like if you do advertise, there's going to be a lot more that's coming from ad placements done with artificial intelligence and personalization of your advertisements. Websites, it's just a mecca of opportunity when it comes to your website. Like if you haven't refreshed your copy lately, it's really easy to use ChatGPT to go in and say, hey, I run this kind of business. Here's my website. What suggestions do you have for how to improve it? How would you reorganize the website? How can you optimize this to improve SEO? So, I mean, I can go on and on about all these things, and I'm happy to talk about these if anyone has questions on them, but I thought that this is a good starter list of just, if you're starting from scratch or you're barely dabbling in it, like, I just don't even know what all it can do for me. Here is a long list of things just right now in a quick mind dump that I have for you that you can use ChatGPT or other AI tools to help you accomplish over time. So how can you get started, right? Again, so many ways, so many things, so much history, so much stuff going on. Really, like, simplify it for me. How can I get started? So I think there are 3 steps that you can take to this. The first is that I think you can dabble more on ChatGPT. Hopefully you guys have already dabbled. A lot of people I talk to, they're like, yeah, I've gone on there and I like played with it once, and then, it didn't really help me, so I haven't gone back. But they haven't really used it as a co-pilot day in and day out. And I'll show you a little bit about that here to hopefully help dip your toe in the water so that you can feel confident to move into that. The second thing that I'd encourage you to do is to start learning a bit about what's called prompt engineering. And I don't think that prompt engineering is going to be, there was a lot of hypothesis in the beginning that was like, this is going to be the next skill, that everything, nobody's going to do anything ever again except prompt engineering. And I don't think that's entirely true, but I do think building your acumen around how to write prompts, which is how you engage with these chatbot type services, can really help you get a lot better results a lot more quickly. Like, part of the reason that I had such great success with the grant application I was speaking of is because I was using some coaching that helped explain, like, if the grant application had this question, it helped explain, well, what is a good answer? And what are the things you want to make sure that you're covering, right? Again, expertise that had been guided by an actual coach on this, but then I could use that in my prompts to get better answers from ChatGPT. I mean, things that were like perfect. I just was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And then the last thing that I would do is what I call explorament different tools. I invented that word. We'll see if it sticks. But exploring new tools isn't enough, and experimenting with them isn't enough. You need to actually allow yourself time and space to kind of explore and experiment with different tools. And what I mean there is you need to go see what's possible. And then you need to be able to actually conduct experiments for yourself, right? Like, when you are doing a task you already would be doing, how can you take the time to go explore how you might redo it differently or reimagine how you do it, and then actually play around with it? And sometimes what will happen for me now is, like, I'll have 2 hours to do something like, like a customer analysis or to write a landing page. And I'll have to use like 3 hours because I'll need another hour to go experiment and learn a new tool. And so it might feel like it's taking a little bit longer in this exploratory phase, but then the next time I'm writing a landing page, I know what I'm doing and it takes half the time. So you'll have to kind of give yourself some grace on that and really put time into experimenting with all of these different tools. So regarding prompting, there's so much out there, and maybe you guys have seen all of the prompt packs, and kind of it's so much that's content that's being produced about, oh, here's 10 prompts that are the best ever. I see that on LinkedIn or Twitter a lot. I have actually adopted, when it comes to prompting, which again, it's kind of a crap in, crap out type thing with prompting, I have created this framework that I use personally whenever I'm starting with ChatGPT, and I'll show it to you guys in action here. But I wanted to point this out to you guys because I have a post on it specifically, and I'll walk through them at a very high level quickly right now. But I want y'all to go check this out if you're trying to learn the art of prompt engineering. And again, I bought prompt packs. I've been studying all of this different stuff for months. And what I always end up doing is kind of coming back to this approach in my mind, because it's what somebody said in some very specific prompt this one time on wherever when they did it doesn't necessarily really help you, right? Like, your business is different, what you're after is different, your strategy is different. And so I've generally adopted this approach where I tell it, take on a persona, assume you're this role. That helps it narrow the way that it advises you. Because again, these models are built on like the whole wide world of internet. So if you tell it, like, pretend that you are an early child educator it's only going to look at that world of population of data and bring that expertise into the sample of what it's looking at. So you can get just infinitely better results just by telling it that you are this. Assume you are this type of, assume you're an expert in social media marketing. Assume you're an expert at X, Y, or Z, which I'll walk through a couple of these things on here. So persona, it's like, tell them to assume the role or persona. And here's a list of them on here. And actually, I'm working on a cheat sheet right now that if you guys follow me, you'll hear about in the next week or so, where it'll have some of this stuff listed for you guys. But the world is your oyster on roles and that you can assume people take. And you like anything like you are a DJ, you are an advisor of small businesses on achieving grants of this particular type. You really, the more specific that you get in what you tell it to be, the better that it will give results for you. The second thing is around goal. And I tell it to assume something, and then I try to tell it the goal of what we're after. I like to say, like, you are an expert at social media marketing. We are trying to grow our Instagram following by this many people over the next 6 months. And so tell it generally, like, I'm trying to do this. I'm wanting you to summarize this. I'm trying to explain this to somebody else. Use something that gives it some context as to what you're actually trying to achieve, not just the specific task at hand, because I'm always surprised at how the more you tell it what you're trying to achieve, the more helpful it is to me, right? Like sometimes I'll say, you're an expert at this, now tell me this specific thing. But if I actually had just said, like, we're trying to achieve this, I think this matters, or we're trying to achieve this, what's your advice? It can be like, it blows my mind sometimes what it comes up with. And I'll show you a little bit of that in action. So tell it what you're after. Then output, this is a lot more about the specific ideas or uses that you have in mind. So for example, assume you're a social media marketer. We're trying to grow our Instagram following by 1,000 followers over the next 6 months. Please return a table or return a content calendar where I'm posting this much each day, right? Like you can tell it, so tell it, I'm trying to achieve this. Now I want you to do this particular task for me. Respond in a bulleted list, do a rough diagram of this, summarize in this many points, right? The more specific that you do, the better. And then details. Details is all about like and you don't have to do every one of these every single time, but I think it helps to kind of go through this mental checklist for yourself. Go back through and think, what are details that it might want to know, right? Like my biggest competitor is this person, or my client is this type of person. My voice, my brand voice, the way I talk is like this. Is infuse as much customization as you can into it, and you will get better results from it, right? Again, sometimes I'll go in and I'll show you, sometimes I'm real vague and I'm like, don't tell it any of it. I only tell it a role and what the goal is, and then I'll have it talk to me about that, and then I'll come kind of back into it. But it's the more specificity, especially if it's like you have restrictions, like I don't have a budget, right? Come up with ideas to get more people into my email list, but I don't have an advertising budget. That's like a specific thing that you can tell it to do. And then the last thing I would say is that when you're starting with ChatGPT and you don't know exactly how to prompt it, ask it to help you. So this is a big trick for me personally, is that instead I'll go in and I'll say, I'm trying to achieve this thing. What would you ask me so you can better understand my business to advise on this thing? And they'll come back and they'll ask you like 5 or 10 questions. And sometimes you're like, man, those are stumpers. I don't know that answer, but you can write back as much as you want to help. It really helps to ask it to ask you what it needs to know. And you can even advise it to say, write me a prompt that I can use to do this later. You can tell it to actually write a prompt for you. So it's pretty neat what you can ask it to do on your behalf, like if you want to be real lazy about it. So let's go and demo this. I put a picture up here of the phone. I just had this easily accessible. One of the things I would actually encourage you is if you don't already have it, ChatGPT has released a app, which is awesome. I kind of use it the way I used to use Google search on my phone, or more like quick hit, like I'm, oh, I wonder whatever, or somebody just said this word and I don't understand it. I'll whip out my app to do that. It's a free app, and sorry, it's going so fast up here. I can't, this is all sped up for, for something I just noticed that, but Let me go in and show you guys. I do encourage you to get the app if you don't, but what I will show you guys is actually how you can go do it on your desktop. So
I'm gonna jump in just for a second because I can see we have some people, and if I'm looking down, it's because I'm refreshing Facebook. I see we have some people watching on Facebook. So if you are here with us and you're on Facebook, the way that you can engage the most is to be here on Zoom so that you can ask live and get the live answers right from Heather. So I dropped the Zoom link into the comments so that you guys can hop over here. I just wanted to give that option. All right, Heather.
That's good. Cool, thanks for that. So if you have not downloaded the app on your phone, which and a lot of the real deep work that I'm usually doing on my desktop, but the app does help to have. So if you're on your desktop and you're trying to go explore and experiment, start dabbling, the best place to go is openai.com. OpenAI is the company that is behind ChatGPT. And I just go here usually and then go to product and click on ChatGPT. And they have other things like DALL-E, which is more like artwork generation, and all kinds of things that they're monetizing and moving forward on now. But ChatGPT is the best for you to go to. So I just want to show you all that for how to navigate. Eventually you just go to ChatGPT. I just type in ChatGPT in my browser and it goes to chat.openai.com because it's not exactly the URL, but so wanted to show you all that. And here is a thread that I started working on just to practice for us today. I'll show you guys in just a little bit and we'll do some of this live just to recreate it. But this is what the user interface looks like. And you'll create what's called a chat. And that really is, it's like a chat, like a text thread kind of, but with a super genius computer. And when you first come in, you'll probably only see GPT-3.5, which is the current model that is free to access. If you want to use ChatGPT-4, which is a more advanced model, they call it a more capable model. It's more creative. It does better reasoning like math problems. But more importantly for me is it's a lot more concise. And so if you've got like an exercise where you're trying to write like things real witty or concise, I think it's valuable. But you cannot access ChatGPT-4 unless you're a paid subscriber. And their pro plan is $20 per month. For me, it's very worth it. I don't know if it's worth it for the average person. I do end up using 3.5 for a lot of things that is just fine and suffices. But because of the nature of me like learning so much about this, and because I am working on a startup that has some components backed by ChatGPT, I have a pro plan. So I wanted to point that out. The other advantage of a paid account where you can access GPT-4 is that you can turn off your chat history. So if you are concerned about privacy, you can actually come and turn that on and turn that off. And I do that quite a bit when I'm working on something that is like in part of my stealth mode startup. And you just come in here down to your profile and you can click. It's really simple. There's quite a few tutorials on it, and I'll have one on my Instagram shortly about that. But I just wanted to come and show you guys a little bit about this and start a new chat and walk through with you guys. And again, if you're on Zoom and you want to, add something specific, put it in there or chime in. I'd love to hear what you might be interested in. But because we're here with Celebration Pros and most of you guys touch the event space in one way or another, I thought that we could start this out just by saying, you advise event businesses on how to save time and money. And what would you advise? We'll just start with something that simple, right? That doesn't follow my full framework, but let's engage with it and see where it goes. We'll kind of play around with it a little bit. So, and again, because you guys are watching, I'm certain that it will be very difficult for me to type everything accurately. So you'll have to forgive me if, if I misspell something on here. Okay, so let's say you advise small events businesses on how to save time and money. What advice can you offer businesses of this type on how to use AI in their businesses? Real vague, right? Let's see what it says. This is literally how it works, real time. You come in here, kind of thinks for a little bit, and then it'll start writing. And the way this whole technology works is it predicts what's the next most logical word based upon what it is that you have advised it to do. And so it writes at real time, which I don't know why it's not writing for me right now, probably just again, because I'm showing you guys. We'll see if it'll pick up the pace here in a second, or I'll switch to my other thread. Look, it's making itself look bad. I don't have to make it look bad for it.
So this happened during our during my demo.
Oh,
And
did it?
but I don't know, because since you pay for it, it really shouldn't be happening. But I know for
I
those who
know.
don't pay, sometimes there's so many people on their server.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
there's
let me
like a limit.
try this with this new one, because sometimes it'll help with the paid one. That is the other thing about the paid version versus the not paid version, is that let me stop sharing and come back on and see if I can at least
Sure.
pull up this thread and see if
A
that
little
will
more
help.
reliable.
That's so weird. I wonder if it can tell, you know, what you're doing on this. We'll try it again. Yeah.com. Anyway, it was really helpful information. I can at least pull my phone out if I need to show some of this stuff. But yeah, that's the other reason the paid version is nice. And part of the reason they introduced the paid version in the very beginning was because this was happening to everybody all day long. They were coming in, there was just so much demand for it that, you know, I guess they had to put a chokehold on the capacity like that. This is so odd. This hasn't happened to me in other demonstrations, but maybe it's you. Maybe it's
It's
you.
me. Let me see if if it works on my end. Probably not,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. We'll see. It's thinking now. Like I tried to even refresh the whole thing and it's not showing some stuff. So that's unfortunate, but we'll hope for the best here in a second. Maybe it'll open up.
it's working
Maybe
for me.
it's working for you now.
Yeah.
You might, if you want to share.
Yeah, I can share if you want to type what you want me to put, just put it in the chat. And then I'll just copy paste from there. So AJ, I saw that you're like, yeah, it's a lot of information, and it is, but what you've learned so far is just about AI. Really lean in here to see what it can do for you.
All right, I just sent you a prompt that you can kind of copy and paste it on and see. I can't believe this crashed on me. It's the first time that's ever happened. We'll see if it'll come back now.
So the prompt was, you are an expert in advising event businesses. How can ChatGPT help my small business in events planning and event vendor space?
Yeah. So it'll write for you live, just like it did, which mine, I have my thread back up. I might show back in just a second, but we'll walk through with what it just returned for you, and then we can go from there. Yeah, like literally this is what it does. It writes to you like as if you're having like an email thread response with somebody, but live in real time. And so it comes in and it tells you, you know, it's an AI language model, and it can help you in these ways. It can tell you, oh, I can help you generate ideas, I can help you plan events, I can help you source vendors, I can help you with marketing and promotion. And this is just a great way to get started. So one of the things I think is the best way to learn about ChatGPT is to just come in here and start asking it questions. And it feels weird to do it because it feels like it's this art, or maybe it's unapproachable, or that you have to have, you know, the perfect way to interact with AI. But really just coming and asking pretty basic questions, you can start to see what it's capable of and what it can return very quickly. So this is a great list of the way that you know, the way that it would respond back to you to something more general. Why don't we close out now and see if I can throw, I did a thread earlier where I asked it some follow-ups, and hopefully I'll be able to display on here. And before I keep going, there's a question here about, can you recommend a more basic class? Honestly, like this is designed, and maybe I'm not doing a great job, but it's designed to be an introduction for you guys. It's the biggest thing I'd recommend is to really start playing with it. There's not, I mean, you can take classes that are going to walk you through. They're not going to do much more than what I just did in terms of showing you how to go log in. The where I think it starts to get really overwhelming is just the variety of things you can use it for, the variety of ways that you can engage with it. And until, you know, you can take something narrow, like I'm working on a cheat sheet that's very much like, okay, just like, here's the most basic ways that you can start prompting it. But the best thing for you to really do is to start playing with it, and to take something like that and to just start going in and having a conversation with it. Ask it, you know, how can you help me? Or what would you ask to learn more about my business so that you can help me on my marketing efforts, or whatever it may be. You really have to just get in there and play around with it. Okay, let me share back my screen. Hopefully this will work and I can at least just display what the results were on here from before. Yeah, I think it should work this time. Okay, good. So basically what I did is I came in this morning and I ran a thread just in case disaster happens. So I'm glad that I did. I said, okay, you're an expert at supporting small businesses. That's that like role, that persona that I encourage you to have it do. And you're supporting people in the event space. What's my goal? I want you to tell me how you can best support me. Outline specific use cases I should be aware of. Which use cases is a term that feels kind of techy, but it really is like, what are the cases in which you would use this, right? What are the specific circumstances? So you can see that the response here is very similar to what we got when we did it live just a second ago, right? Which is good because it's starting to really surround around some truth, right? It's starting to be able to synthesize very quickly the body of knowledge, if you will. And, you know, it can tell you this kind of stuff. And then, okay, I read this and I was like, oh, interesting. They say that they can help me with, you know, marketing and sales. So I said, what can you do within marketing and sales functions for my business, right? Like I want to grow, I want to make more money, I want more clients. How can I market my business better and get more sales? And then it'll tell you, well, within marketing and sales, I can provide several valuable supports here. Here's how I can assist you. I can help you with market research. I can help you with your sales strategy development, with your lead generation, sales collateral development, your process optimization. You can see just this alone, this list is long, and this is just in the marketing and sales world. And marketing and sales arguably is the most valuable use case for using ChatGPT because it's so language based. It does copywriting for you really well, but it actually can advise on strategy and it can advise on captions and that kind of thing. So, you know, going and reading this it's really valuable. Like putting aside an hour or two per week just to come play around and, you know, ask it questions is a really good place to start. So I read through this and I was like, okay, yeah, all that sounds like great ways. Like now I'm getting more aware of what it can do to help me. But then I had this thought that was, you know, one of the most effective ways to market right now is email campaigns. So I thought, can you outline an email campaign series that would be good for me to have in place as an event planner? You know, I just chose that particular one, but like, let's say you're a DJ business. Can you outline an email campaign series that would help me to have in place as a DJ service provider to weddings, to large scale corporate events, right? Depending on, you add more detail based upon, are you trying to get more weddings? Or are you trying to get more corporate events, right? You can add those types of details in here. And very quickly it says here, you know, you should have a welcome email. You can have an events announcement email. You can have an early bird discount reminder, and it'll start to really outline some of this content for you. So I'll use this often to come in and kind of just frame things out. Like it takes best practices and makes really good recommendations for you. Like I've been in marketing for 15 years. This is a pretty darn good email series for you to have in place. You know, this would be 80% of a great answer for you, done in seconds at your fingertips. And when it comes in here and you ask it something vague, like you say, can you outline an email campaign series? It'll say, yeah, you should have a welcome email and here's the purpose and here's the content. But you can always follow up from this in a, you know, a prompt chain and say, great, thank you. I want to, please draft a specific welcome email for me. right? You can follow up from what it's suggesting and say, draft it for me. Like, actually, what would you do? And especially if you know things like, my draft a welcome email for me, reminder that I am a DJ business. I like for creativity and wit to show through in my brand voice, write it in that type of style. And I could write it and you could not like it. And then you could say, go back and write this in half the words, or write it so it has more humor in it, right? You can direct it to rewrite endlessly for you so that you don't have to, become a master copywriter, but you can get it done really quickly. So this is just an example of what it said. And then I asked it, okay, well, automations are going to be, I think, where the most value really adds in the long run. And where I was talking about, we're kind of in this little lull right now. I think there's going to be a lot of solutions that come into place that make creating and that enable automations in your business to automatically reply back to this, or automatically draft you an email and then send you an email to remind you to go approve what has drafted on your behalf. And so I asked it that, how would I go about setting this up how to automate these emails? Can you provide recommendations on the steps I need to take and the specific software I should consider? And it'll tell you this. So imagine, instead of you having a freelance email marketing service provider, you talk to ChatGPT and have it create a base level recommendation for you. And you may still engage with a copywriter who really knows their stuff, but it's a different point of engagement, which makes the process a lot faster. So before, wherein I would work with freelancers and setting up an email campaign like this, having them draft it and code it and all that, it can easily cost $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to have them fully outsource it. And now you can take this and you can have a copywriter review it for an hour or two, and you can have someone set up and code it, or you can have some of the mini solutions that are coming to place set up these funnels and start coding on your behalf. And it can cost you $500 instead of $5,000. And that will continue to be the way that these solutions come to bear over the next couple of months. So I'll pause there. Again, I know it's a lot. Sometimes I forget, it's weird for me to say that I'm like an expert at something, but to me, all I can think about is how much more I have to learn. And I forget that, I'm 6 months into this, spending hundreds of hours on it. So I'll pause here and answer any questions that you guys have about it. And, we're right up against the hour. So we've got a couple minutes for questions, and I'm happy to stay on for anything else.
So I think the biggest takeaway here is that you now have this resource that you can go in and you can ask it how to do business better.
Yeah.
And B, it can help you verbalize things. And then what I teach within the Celebration Pro community is to have your brand values. And those are 5 words that we use as our North Star. And so this is where you can easily go in and say, it can help you write an email as a response to leads, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you put in those specifications of who you are, what you do, all those things. And then once it writes it, you can say, rewrite this in a more playful manner, and it will rewrite it. And then you can say, rewrite this, including these 5 words or 3, you just write, maybe it's 2 of your North Star words, and it will rewrite it until you feel like it's your voice.
You can just literally write back and be like, draft it again, use less words, take out the buzzwords. One of the other things that I've learned that really helps is to share with it any content that you already have. So you can go in and say, draft me emails, draft me an email about blah, blah, blah. Here are examples of other emails in my tone. And I think that's another place where you can go and you can say, hey, make this more clever, make it more pithy, make it funnier, say it in fewer words, make it more concise. You can direct it using actual language to describe your brand voice, but also you can direct it by showing it examples of things that do represent you, and it will go interpret what the tone of that was and then redraft within that kind of style, which to me is chef's kiss, because we probably already have some emails laying around that we've sent, right, that we've used already for promotion or for engagement with our clients. And so that lets you kind of leverage what you already have and get more of it very efficiently.
I'm actually using this right now in a similar way because I'm moving a friend's website she has like a wellness business, over to show it and to make sure I'm bringing her voice over. She's totally switched. Her brand is completely different, but I want to make sure I'm using her voice because she wrote everything on her original. And it makes it really easy for me to say, you know, here's the bio of who this is for, written by her. Can you
Yes.
please write in her voice X, Y, Z? And so
Yeah.
say you have an email or you have a blog post or something where you're just like, it's just not quite where I want it to be. And you have writer's block, whether you want to start or rewrite it or whatnot, ChatGPT is a great way to play around with that creativity.
Totally. I agree. It
Does
really
anybody
helps.
want, does anybody have like a question that you want to ask ChatGPT, and maybe Heather could walk through just a couple of demos? We did it more like on the content creation side last week or 2 weeks
It
ago.
could build in that it's worth its own session on content
Yeah.
creation.
I like that it can do like a graph, like on the speed one, I was keeping up because I'm used to it, but basically she created a meal plan like in 2 seconds, which was really fun. So that's
Yeah,
something
and and then what's even amazing is like you can create a meal plan, but then also you can have it create your grocery list, and you can have it organize it by aisle, and you can have it list out your preferences that it learns over time. And so it's, you know, it's really powerful what you can do with a lot of these things. And a lot of what I talk about, one of the things I'm struggling with is how much do I talk about small business versus life? Because what I really want to create are solutions for life in my startup that I'm working on. But I also run businesses day in and day out, so it's easier to talk about my use cases. But you'd be surprised at how much you can use it to coordinate even like packing lists or planning vacations, that kind of thing. There's going to be a lot more on that.
So go in, maybe even start with something that like is a hobby of yours that isn't your business, and just play around, ask it questions. And once you get used to the capabilities of it, then you can start playing in with those prompts. But follow Heather on Instagram because she'll even post like prompt ideas and things like that. And then as you get more familiar, you can lean on her a little bit more. Does anybody have any other questions? I know we had quite a few watching on Facebook, and I know there's quite a few who are interested in the replay. So I'll make sure that we get this out. If you're watching the replay, feel free to comment as you're going through, although I know we're at the end now. But if you have any questions, go ahead and comment, and I'll make sure that we get them back over to Heather. And Heather, thank you so much for your time. I think this was a great introduction, and I love that you started off with like, this is the importance. These are the do's and don'ts, and the demo was very helpful as well.
Good. Yeah, sorry it took us a little bit to get it going, but
No, it's good.
It's fun when you're playing with it live, I promise.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, I hope you have a great day, and this will be pinned in the group if you want to come back and watch the demo again. And Heather, can you drop in the chat the OpenAI?
Yep.
You know what I'm trying to say, the URL.
The link, yeah.
So that's there. And that way you guys can copy paste it and spend the rest of the day. It's a rabbit hole, so put a timer on when you go in there.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Heather.
Welcome. Bye, guys.
Bye.